Hey, I'm going to talk to you about a mercy now because I'm at home because my kid woke up and he's got a fever. So, if you could open up your books to page 160, we'll talk through this. So, on page 160, we finally get Florin's arrival at the blacksmith's place, and we see a couple things that we've kind of heard about already. So on page 160, it says, "This happens twice. The first time, it is peering around my mother's dress, hoping for her hand that is only for her little boy. Second time, it's pointing screaming little girl hiding behind her mother and clinging to her skirts. Both times are full of danger, and now I am expelled. Now I'm seeing the little boy come in holding a cornhusk doll. He's younger than everybody I know. You reach out your forefinger toward him, and he takes hold of it. You say, 'This is why I cannot travel with you.' The child you call Malik is not to be left alone. He's a foundling." Now, Malik is in a situation that is reminiscent of a number of other characters in the book, right? So Malik just showed up on a wagon, and the guy next to him, who I think we kind of assumed to be his father, was dead. So he, like Lena and like Sorrow, and like Florence, were kind of left with nothing. They were complete orphans, right? So at this point, the blacksmith takes him in, and since they didn't know who the guy was and they didn't know who it belonged to, it said, "People from the village come, learn he is dead, and find a boy sitting quietly in the cart. No one knows who is the dead man, and nothing in his belongings can tell. You accept him as a future when a townsman or magistrate places him, which may never be, because although the dead man's skin is rosy, the boy's is not. So maybe he's not a son at all. My mouth goes dry as I wonder if you want him to be yours." Now, this is also kind of reminiscent of Florence the last time when she was turning to somebody she really liked, her mom, right? And her mom, the little boy was holding her mom's finger, and that's when she pushed and said, "My daughter, take my daughter." And we're getting a similar thing here. How you offer, and he owns your forefinger, as if he's your future, not me. "I'm not liking how his eyes go when you send him to play in the yard, but then you bathe my journey from my face and arms and make me stew." Now, at this point, she's still feeling really good, right? This is the place she wants to be and the person she wants to be with. "Here, I'm not one to throw out. No one steals my warmth and shoes because I'm small. No one handles my backside. No one whinnies like sheep or goat because I drop in fear and weakness. No one screams at the sight of me. No one watches my body for how it is unseemly. With you, my body's pleasure is safe belonging. I can never not have you have me." So, blacksmith goes back to Rebecca, and Florence is left there with Malik, right? Malik does not like Florence because I think he views her as competition for affection of blacksmith. Now on page 162, Florence has a dream that night. And the dream, we're going to see kind of come up a little bit later in the text too, but "I dream a dream that dreams back at me. I'm on my knees in soft grass with white clover breaking through it." So in this dream, she walks up to a pond or pool, and she looks over into the water, and it said, "Right away I take fright when I see my face is not there. Where my face should be is nothing. I put a finger in and watch the water circle. I put my mouth close enough to drink or kiss, but I'm not even a shadow there. Where is it hiding? Why is it? Soon daughter Jane is kneeling next to me. She too looks in the water. 'Oh, precious, don't fret,' she's saying. 'You'll find it.' Where?' I ask. 'Where's my face?' But she is no more beside me. When I wake, Amina May is standing by your cot, and this time her baby boy is Malik. He's holding her hand. She moves her lips at me, but she's holding Malik's hand in her own. I hide my head in my blanket." Now, this idea of Florence not having a face or not having an identity, not being her own person, is going to come up very soon because the blacksmith is going to kind of confront her about this in their big argument. Page 163, "In the morning, the boy is not here, but I prepare porridge for the two of us. Again, he's standing in the lane, holding tight the cornhusk doll and looking toward where you ride away. Sudden looking at him, I'm remembering the dog's profile rising from Widow Ealing's kettle. Then I cannot read its full meaning. Now I know how I'm guarding. Otherwise, I'm missing all understanding of how to protect myself." So this is a similar situation to when the steam from the dog's head came up, right? She should have, at the time, recognized that that meant danger and something bad was going to happen, but she didn't, right? Now, one of the other things I talked about on page 3, right in the beginning of the book, is the cornhusk doll splayed in the corner, and nobody knows how it got there. That's obviously coming up in this next page or two as well. She also finds out that the boots she wore there are gone, right? Now, if you remember, this also takes us back to the beginning, because the very beginning of the text was "the beginning begins with shoes," right? And it talked about how Florence's feet, Lena had warned her that her feet are always going to be too tender for life and too soft because she wore the shoes, right? And we talked about how either her feet are going to get tough and she's going to be strong through life, or her feet will remain tender and weak and she will not be successful or survive. So with the boots gone, all of a sudden she's back to being barefoot. So we kind of return back to that. On page 164, It said, bits of metal score and bite them. I look and see the curl of a garden snake edging toward the threshold. I watch it slow crawl until it is dead in the sunlight. Now, we saw that also, right? These were the three omens that she kind of talked about on the first couple pages of the book when the snake crawled up on the doorstep and died across the front step. So she just watched that happen. The boy quits the lane. He comes in, but will neither eat nor talk. We stare at each other across the table. He does not blink, nor me. I know he steals Sir's boots that belong to me. His fingers cling the doll. I think that must be where his power is. What power she's talking about, I don't know exactly. Maybe the power of the blacksmith. I don't know. He's kind of an intimidating little kid for never speaking. I take it away and place it on the shelf too high for him to reach. He screams tears falling. On bleeding feet, I run outside to keep the boy from hearing. He's not stopping, is not. A cart goes by, a couple in it glance but do not greet or pause. The doll is not on the shelf. It is abandoned in the corner like a precious child no person wants. Or no, maybe the doll is sitting there hiding from me, afraid. Which is the true reading? Then the kid comes back in and is screaming. She said she tried to grab his arm just to make him stop screaming, but I think she dislocated his shoulder, right? Just at that point, the blacksmith shows up and sees Malik, who had fallen and kind of hit it, so he's got a little blood coming out of his mouth and his shoulder's at this weird janky angle. So he pops his shoulder back into place. The boy opens his eyes, then faints one more when you twist it back into its proper place. Yes, there's blood a little, but you were not there when it comes, so how do you know I'm the reason? Then the blacksmith knocks Florence down. I am the first to get knocking away. The back of your hand strikes my face. I fall and curl up on the floor, tight, no question. You chose the boy. You call his name. You take him to lie down with the doll and return to me, your broken face, eyes without glee, rope pumps in your neck. I'm lost. No word of sorrow for knocking me off my feet. No tender fingers to touch where you hurt me. I cower. I hold the feathers, lift down the feathers, lifting. Now, that's another reference back to the eagle story, right? We talked about that the other day where the man killed the mother eagle and then the orphan baby eagles were talking, and then Lena referenced that those baby orphan eagles are Florence and Lena and the other orphans on the farm. And she talks about the feathers unfolding to rise up and bare teeth. We're almost at that point. On the next page, 166, 167, I talked about in the story or the dream where she looks in the water and can't see a reflection. On 166, 167, this is what we're getting at. Why are you killing me, I ask you? I want you to go. Let me explain, she says. No, now. Why, she asks. Because you're a slave. What, she said. You heard me. Sir makes me that, Florence says. I don't mean him. Then who? You. What is your meaning? I'm a slave because Sir trades for me, Florence says. No, you've become one, the blacksmith said. How? Your head is empty and your body is wild. I'm adoring you, Florence said, and a slave to that too. You alone own me. Own yourself, woman, and leave us be. You could have killed this child. Now, when he talks about her being a slave by choice, it's accurate, I guess, but I think it's not really taking into account Florence's experience that she had on the farm with slavery. We've talked about how it's not really like slavery as we've talked about it, as we read with Frederick Douglass. There's no abuse on the farm. There's no sexual assault. There's nothing really negative. Jacob more or less took these people in, and they have to work all day. But Florence doesn't really view it as slavery. We saw it when she was on the wagon with the people who escaped and kind of slipped off, and they called her stupid. They called her daft because she didn't understand what she was talking about. So when he said you're a slave by choice, she is. But again, slavery as she understands it is not really the way the blacksmith is understanding it. You shout the word mind, mind, mind over and over, then you laugh, saying, as I live and breathe, a slave by choice. On my knees, I reach for you, crawl to you. You step back, saying, get away from me. I have shock. Are you meaning I am nothing to you, and I have no consequence in your world? My face absent in blue water you find, only to crush it? Now I am living the dying inside. No, not again, not ever. Feathers lifting, I unfold, the claws scratch and scratch until the hammer's in my hand. Now, we'll find out what happens at the end of the book, but Florence is vicious. Anyway, the next chapter, we get Willard and Scully. And Willard and Scully start by talking about how one of Jacob Vark's first things he did after he died was to climb out of his grave to visit his beautiful house. As well he should, said Willard. I sure would, answered Scully. So they go and it talks about how she spends a lot of time there. And then Willard and Scully kind of also comment on how other people on the farm have changed. On 170 and 171, there was much to be done because, hardy as the woman had always been, they seemed distracted, slower now. Before and after the blacksmith healed mistress and the girl, Florence was back where she belonged. A pall had descended. Still, Willard said, Lena continued to do her work calmly, but Scully disagreed, said she was simmering, like green apples trembling in boiling water too long. the skin near to breaking, needing quick removal, cooling before mashed into sauce. So he said basically that Lena's still doing her good work and she's working hard, but it seems like she's about to snap kind of at any point. Mistress had changed as well. The morning, said Willard, the illness, the effects of all that were as plain as daylight. Her hair, the brassy strands that once refused to cap, had become pale strings drifting at her temples, adding melancholy to her newly stern features. Rising from her sickbed, she'd taken control, in a manner of speaking, but avoided as too tiring the task she used to undertake with gusto. She laundered nothing, planted nothing, weeded never. She cooked and mended. Otherwise, her time was spent reading a Bible or entertaining one or two people from the village. Now, if you remember when she first got to the farm, she was very hardworking. She and Lena worked together on everything, and they became good friends. And she was happy to do the work, right? The death of her children, especially daughter getting kicked in the head and killed, really, as in the text, it described her as unleavening her. And after she survived smallpox, she's changed completely, right? She's very religious, but she doesn't really do any of the work. She's much crueler to Lena and to Florence. Well, not Florence at this point, because Florence is gone, but Sorrow definitely. On the next page, on 171, Sorrow's change alone seemed to have been an improvement. She was less addle-headed, more capable of handling chores, but her baby came first, and she would postpone egg gathering, delay milking, interrupt the field chores if she heard a whimper from the infant somewhere nearby. And then at the bottom of the page, strangest of all was Florence. The docile creature they knew had turned feral. When they saw her stomping down the road 2 days after the smithy had visited Mistress's sickbed and gone, they were slow to recognize her as a living person. First, because she was so blood-spattered and bedraggled, and second, because she had passed right by them. Surely a sudden burst of sweating men out of a roadside trees would have startled a human, any human, especially female, but this one neither glanced their way nor altered her pace. Both men, breathless and still spooked from the narrow escape, leaped out of their path. In their frightened minds, anything could be anything. Right? So the fact that these two adult men are jumping out of the way as Florence comes walking by shows that Florence has changed a lot, right? She messed him up, the blacksmith. And the fact that she doesn't look their way and there's two dudes and they're the ones that run showed just how much she's changed in such a short period of time. We get some more of Willard and Scully's story. We'll spend a little bit more time on that tomorrow. There was one other thing. Yeah, we'll stick with Willard and Scully tomorrow. So for tomorrow, you can finish the book up to page 193. You're also going to get a copy of the study guide, and the study guide is extra credit, as the others have been. It will be due by Tuesday at the end of the day during finals week. So whether you have finals on Monday or Tuesday, I'll take the study guide by Tuesday. It's extra credit and optional, but it will help your grade out a little bit. You will be able to see your essays by 2:45 on Friday, possibly earlier during the day, but I'm going to be working on them. I'm home with my kid who's got a fever. So I will see you tomorrow.